First reading.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The acoustics in this room are not good.
Okay.
So if you can keep your voice up so the jurors in the back can hear you, that would be appreciated. Can you just start by telling us your name and spelling your last name? Actually, in your case, can you spell your first name as well?
Certainly. It's Amy, spelled A-I-M-E-E. Last name Nolan, N-O-L-A-N.
Okay. And did you formally work for Vermont State Police?
I did.
Okay. And are you now retired?
I am.
When did you retire?
October of 2023.
Okay.
Can parties approach for 1 minute?
Thank you. You were employed with the Vermont State Police in October of 2021?
Correct.
Okay. And what was your rank at the time?
Detective Sergeant?
Okay. And was that your rank at the time of retirement?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your assignment with the Vermont State Police at that time?
I was the assistant commander of the crime scene search team for the Vermont State Police.
Okay. And can you just tell us what that sort of generally means?
Sure. The crime scene search team is a team of 20 members and 2 commanders. We respond to homicides, officer-involved shootings, and other questionable death investigations. And the team specializes in processing the crime scene, collecting evidence.
Okay. Approximately how many crime scenes and death investigations have you participated in?
Well over 150.
And in mid-October, October 15th or 16th of 2021, were you made aware of an investigation related to Emily Ferlazzo?
I was not notified until the morning of October 19th.
Okay. So prior to that, you were not involved in the case?
No.
Okay. And what information were you provided on October 19th?
I received a call from Major Crimes Unit Supervisor. One of the lieutenants advised that there was a new case, requesting my presence at the St. Albans Barracks for a briefing later that morning.
Okay. And did you, in fact, attend that briefing?
I did.
And what further information did you learn?
Excuse me, at that point I learned that the state police was notified the prior day of a missing person, Emily Ferlazzo, that there were some suspicious circumstances surrounding that, that Mr. Ferlazzo, Emily's husband, had told a friend that he had killed her, and that the state police had seized a camper van as well as a Jeep that belonged to Mr. Ferlazzo.
Okay. And so what was your sort of plan or task for the day?
Initially, there was a lot of waiting around, learning new information as it was found. The search warrant was being worked on to be able to search the van and the Jeep. So I took it upon myself to sort of scour the internet, social media pages for both Emily and Joseph Ferlazzo, trying to find acquaintances that we might be able to interview, seeing if anyone had posted any comments or anything we could learn about Emily's potential whereabouts.
Okay. And at some point, did you take a break to go get food?
I had had lunch, but to be honest, I'd had enough coffee that morning, so I decided to go to the store, knowing it was going to be a late night. I wanted an energy drink and some snacks for the team once they got there. So I believe it was around 2 in the afternoon. I did leave the barracks and go to a local convenience store.
Okay. And what was that convenience store called?
Maple Fields?
Okay. And that was in St. Albans?
Yes.
All right. And who did you go there with?
One of the other team members that had arrived at the barracks, Brandon Gallant.
Okay. And who drove?
I did.
What did you drive? What vehicle did you drive?
I drove my state-issued cruiser, if you will.
Okay. And can you describe that vehicle?
Sure. It's an F-150 truck with an extra cab and an extended bed on it, so it's a rather large vehicle.
Okay. How many seats are in the vehicle?
Technically, seating for 6. It was a bench seat in the front and a bench seat in the back. But my back seat was full of equipment, and then in the front seat, I usually kept the center console folded down for like a drink holder, things like that. So most comfortably 2, impossibly 3.
Okay. And is there a secure area of this vehicle like many police cruisers?
No.
Okay. So the entire inside of it is accessible?
Open, correct.
Okay. Does it have any sort of Vermont State Police insignia on it?
No, completely unmarked.
What were you wearing that day?
I was wearing my crime scene uniform, which is a pair of cargo style, I'd say tan pants, a green polo shirt with the state police emblem, and it said CSST on it, but that was covered with a plain black fleece, so I didn't have any obvious markings of the state police on my person that day.
And you weren't wearing a state trooper uniform that we've all
No,
seen?
I was not.
Okay. How far away is the Maple Fields from the St. Albans Barracks?
It's approximately a mile down the road.
Okay. So can you tell the jury what happened when you pulled into the Maple Fields?
Sure. Due to the size of the truck, it wasn't practical to park in sort of a normal parking spot, if you will. The back end of the vehicle would stick out several feet. So I often chose to park, not in a parking spot, along a parking lot edge or something like that. So as I pulled in to the entrance to the store, I had my eye on a spot where I wanted to park sort of parallel to the road. Well away from parking spots. I noticed a male was just sort of nonchalantly walking right where I wanted to park. So I was, I can't remember if I muttered it or if I just thought under my breath, like, oh my gosh, hurry up, that's where I want to park. So I sort of slowly, crawled behind the person until they diagonally cut across and went into the store.
Okay. And so once you entered the store, where did you immediately go?
Right to the back of the store where the coolers are located. That's where the energy drinks were.
Okay. And as you're walking towards the back of the store, did you notice anything?
I noticed that same male. I had sort of given him a nickname in my head of Hoodie because he was wearing his hood up. It was chilly that morning. And I noticed that same male that I had waited to move out of my way so I could park was also at the coolers. He had walked right to the back of the store as well.
Okay. And what was he doing?
He was getting a drink out of the cooler and sort of stepping back from the cooler at that time.
Did you recognize the male?
When he closed the door to the cooler and he turned around and we made eye contact, I was like, wait, I know this person. In that moment, I couldn't figure out where or why. My brain was still trying to catch up with me. But I knew I recognized him.
Okay. And did you ultimately determine how you recognized him?
Yeah, so he walked to the right and then turned to walk up to one of the aisles towards the front of the store, and he turned and looked at me again, and we locked eyes again, and at that point, I recognized that it was Joseph Ferlazzo.
Okay. And how did you recognize him? What have you seen?
So I had spent, like I said, a lot of that morning sort of scouring through social media. I had seen dozens of pictures of Mr. Ferlazzo as well as Emily. And then also our public information officer for the state police was at the barracks that morning. He was preparing a press release that he was getting ready to put out with photos, which included Mr. Ferlazzo. And he had asked me to proofread that for him just before I went to the store. So it was like another look at Mr. Ferlazzo's face right before I left.
Okay. And where did that mail go?
Up to the front of the store to the cash register area.
Okay. And so what was the next thing you did with that information?
I told Brandon that's Joseph Ferlazzo. He's heading out of the store. I'm going to follow him.
Okay. And are you aware that this interaction with Mr. Ferlazzo was recorded?
Yes.
Okay, and how was it recorded?
Through the Maplefield surveillance video system.
Okay. And have you reviewed those?
I have seen those videos, yes.
Judge, I have a stipulation for the court. States 120, stipulation number 5.
So I was told my voice was not quite loud enough last time, perhaps for some of you, so I'm going to read a little louder this time. Stipulation number 5. Members of the jury, the state and defendant Joseph Ferlazzo have agreed that you may find certain facts. This is called a stipulation. A member of the Vermont State Police collected surveillance video from the Maple Fields gas station in St. Albans, Vermont, from October 19, 2021. That surveillance video was added to the case file and reviewed by Detective Sergeant Amy Nolan. The authenticity of the surveillance video is not being challenged. Chain of custody of the surveillance video is also not being challenged. As with any evidence in this trial, you must decide what weight you will give this stipulation. And that's Exhibit States 120, and no objection to that being admitted.
No objection.
Admitted without objection.
Do a quick technical change here. Judge, the state would next move to admit States 23, which is the first Maple Fields video.
No objection.
Okay, States 23 is admitted without objection. I don't think that was heard. Go back here.
States 23 is admitted without objection.
Thank you, Judge. Sorry about that. At some point in the video, you appear to look at your phone. Can you just tell the jury what you're doing?
Yes, I feel like my body language is pretty clear at the moment that I recognize him, and I turn back around, I take my phone out, I say something to the trooper I was with, and I take my phone out because I'm looking for that press release to show the picture to Brandon and to sort of confirm my suspicions that it was Joseph Ferlazzo.
Okay. And is there another angle of this same sort of interaction within Maple Fields?
There is.
Judge, the state would move to admit States 24, second Maple Fields video.
No objection.
States 24 is admitted without objection.
So after seeing who you believe to be Mr. Ferlazzo in the Maple Fields, did you in fact follow him outside?
I did.
Okay. And did you approach him outside?
I followed behind him. He was walking along the front of the store.
Okay. And what did you do? What was your interaction?
I said, Joseph,
Okay.
and the male kept walking, no acknowledgement. So then I said something to the effect of, hey, state police, can you stop for a second? I just need to talk to you.
Okay. And did the male stop?
He did.
Okay. And what did you do? Once the individual stopped, did they stop and actually turn around to face you and interact with you?
He did turn around and then took a very long, almost exaggerated drink of his energy drink, just looking at me, sort of the proverbial deer in the headlight look. It seemed to me, based on my training and experience, it was almost as if he were trying to figure out, fight, flight, freeze, what do I do?
Okay. And what did you say to him?
I said, Joseph, it's you, right? Are you okay?
Okay. And what did he do in reply?
He took his drink down and his body language sort of deflated. And he said, no, I'm not okay.
Okay. And what do you mean? Can you describe what you mean by his body language deflated?
Sure. As he was looking at me taking that drink, he seemed, quite tense. Again, sort of deer in the headlights. Do I run? Do I freeze? Do I fight? And he just sort of relaxed, if you will. Like I visibly saw his shoulders drop, and his head kind of dropped a little bit, and he just said, "No, I'm not okay."
Okay. How far away from you was he when you first said state police?
Probably 10 feet, approximately.
All right. And what did you, after he said, "No, I'm not okay," how did you respond to that?
I said, well, there's a lot of people looking for you and looking for Emily, and we're just trying to figure out where Emily is and what's going on. Her family's very worried about her.
And what was his response?
Let's go.
He said, "Let's go." Okay. And so what did you do?
I said, go where? And he said, wherever you're taking me. And I said, I'm not taking you anywhere. You're not under arrest. But if you want to come with me, I'll give you a ride to the barracks, and we can get a detective just to talk to you.
Okay. And did he agree to that?
He did.
Okay. And did you bring him in your vehicle?
We started to walk back across the parking lot towards my truck, yes, and stopped about halfway across the parking lot.
Okay. And why did you stop halfway across?
There was a moment where I thought Mr. Ferlazzo might pass out. He seemed a little unsteady on his feet. I said, you're okay. I asked his permission. I said, if it's okay, I want to just put my hand on your shoulder. And I did. And I said, I got you. I said, you're okay. I'll get you to the barracks and you can talk to somebody.
Okay. Did he make any statements or respond to that in any
No.
particular way? Okay. And so did you bring him back to the barracks?
I did. The other thing that we did sort of in that halfway point was I asked him and explained before I could give him a ride. It was our sort of protocol that we had to pat somebody down for weapons before I could allow him in my cruiser with me, and also because I don't have a typical cruiser with what they call the cage in the back to separate the officer from a person that they've picked up for some reason. So he said that was fine. He indicated he had no weapon, so I patted him down real quick, and then I got into the driver's seat, and Brandon walked him across to the passenger seat.
Okay. Did Brandon also get in the car?
He did not.
Okay. Was that because there wasn't any room?
Yeah, I told him I would come back and pick him up.
Okay.
I didn't think we needed to sit three across the front seat.
Okay. So it was just you and Mr. Ferlazzo in the ride back to the barracks?
Correct.
And did you speak to him during that time about Emily?
Not about Emily. I asked him, like I said, it was cold that day. I asked him, are you cold? He said he was. I turned the heat up. I said, have you been out all night? Based on the interactions that I knew had occurred the night before, he said he had. I asked him if he, was thirsty, if he was hungry. He said he was. And so, again, I told him, I turned the heat up and I told him I would get him something to eat once we got back to the barracks.
Okay. How long were you in the truck with Mr. Ferlazzo?
Less than 5 minutes, probably.
Right. Did you see anything on the way to the barracks that sparked a conversation?
Yes, there was. So at one point in the video, as I start to walk towards the front of the store, I turned to Brandon and I told him to call dispatch to let them know what was happening. So that message had gotten relayed, and there was a trooper coming to the store, lights and sirens.
Okay. And did Mr. Ferlazzo say anything related to that?
He didn't. I sort of chuckled and said, I think they're looking for us. I said, but we're good, right? And we continued on, and I placed a call to my lieutenant at that time.
And could Mr. Ferlazzo hear that conversation with your lieutenant?
Yes.
Okay. Did you make any other calls during that time?
I also, actually, let me back up. Before calling my lieutenant, I got on the radio to dispatch, and I clarified, I am in the truck with Mr. Ferlazzo. All units can stand down. I'm headed to the barracks.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of what time you arrived at the barracks?
I would say it was probably, if this interaction was around 2, as I remember, I would say probably 2:15
Okay.
approximately.
And when you arrived at the barracks, where did you park?
I drove around to the backside of the barracks, into the gated parking area of the barracks.
Okay. And did Joseph get out of the car?
I can't remember. I think I walked around to his side of the truck and opened the door for him, if I recall correctly.
Okay. And did you ultimately get him into the police barracks?
Yes, the station commander of the barracks was outside waiting for us, and together we walked inside the building, yes.
Okay. And did he still have the drink that he'd bought at Maple Fields?
At that point, I believe he did, yes.
But did you had said earlier you told him you would get him some food and drinks. Did you do that?
Eventually, yes. After a short period of waiting for an interview and a detective to be ready for Mr. Ferlazzo, as this was obviously not planned, I returned back to the store and got a sandwich and some chips.
Okay. At any point in your interactions with Mr. Ferlazzo, did you ask him any questions about Emily?
I did not.
Okay. And is the person that you identified in Maple Fields as Mr. Ferlazzo and brought back to the barracks, is he in the courtroom today?
He is.
Can you just describe to the jury what he's wearing?
Certainly. He's sitting at the defendant's table wearing tan pants, a light gray shirt, and a black tie.
Okay. The state would request that the record reflect that's Mr. Ferlazzo.
They're directed.
Is it your understanding that he was then interviewed by Detective Sergeant Boris?
Yes.
Okay. And were you told at some point after what he indicated had happened to Emily?
In stages, yes.
Okay. And so did you become involved in this case in a sort of different capacity at some point?
Certainly, what I was there for initially, and that was in the role of crime scene search team.
Okay. What was the first thing you did related to that role?
Based on Mr. Ferlazzo's statement, where there had been an altercation, my first assignment, if you will, was to photograph Mr. Ferlazzo to see if we could detect any marks, bruises, scratches, anything like that.
Okay. And the jury has seen the interview room and this process happening.
Okay.
When you first went into the interview room to do this, did Mr. Ferlazzo indicate remembering you or give any indication that he remembered you?
Yes.
And did he remember you by name?
I don't recall if he remembered me by name.
Okay. And so did you in fact take photographs of his condition?
I did. I also collected what we call buccal swabs to get a DNA sample from Mr. Ferlazzo.
Okay. And Your Honor, the state would seek to admit states 25 through 36.
Okay.
Renew my early objections.
Objections as earlier noted, but they'll be admitted over objection. 25 through 36.
We're just going to go through the photographs, if you can just explain briefly what each one is.
Certainly. So this is what we would call an overview photograph with Mr. Ferlazzo. And because you can't really capture someone unless you're standing really far away, we take them in segments, so upper body, mid, and then lower body. Mr. Ferlazzo's hands, front and back. This is Mr. Ferlazzo's upper body. It was explained to him that we would like to take photographs without his clothes on, but not completely naked, again, looking for marks or bruises. It was also offered to him, if I recall, being a female, if he wasn't comfortable. I did have another trooper with me that could take those photographs. So this is the upper, I would say, torso of Mr. Ferlazzo. And face and upper chest, mid-chest and abdomen, upper legs, the backside of his legs, and front of his lower legs. This is a side, sort of more close-up photograph of his left side of his head and face. full body back, upper back, I should say.
And did you note any injuries or observe any injuries or marks on his body?
There was one mark, and I remember asking him if, that was an injury or perhaps a birthmark. It was really hard to tell. I believe it was on the left side of the back of his head, sort of right in his hairline. So it was hard to detect. Other than that, I did not see any marks on his body.
Or bruises?
No.
Okay. And you did already state that you collected the DNA swabs.
Yes.
Do you recall, were those swabs from the cheek titled Item 1A
Yes.
or 1? And were they brought to the lab for testing?
They were.
Okay. Did you also supervise the collection of evidence from the van in question?
I did.
And have you reviewed all of the photographs taken of the van?
I have.
Right. Judge, the state first has a stipulation. Number 6 states 121.
Yep. No objection, Ms. Johnson.
I'm here now. No objection. Thank you.
Stipulation number 6, members of the jury, the state and defendant, Joseph Ferlazzo, have agreed that you may find certain facts. This is called a stipulation. Members of the crime scene search team, in parentheses, CSST, end of parentheses, collected, tagged, photographed, and processed pieces of evidence during the search of the camper van pursuant to a valid search warrant. CSST supervisors Amy Nolan and Aaron McNeil oversaw the collection, tagging, photographing, and processing of all evidence collected from the camper van. These items were ultimately stored at the Vermont State Police Barracks in Williston. These items were the same condition upon arrival at the barracks as they were when collected from the camper van during the searches on October 19th, 2021 and October 20th, 2021. Chain of custody is not being challenged as it relates to these items. As with any evidence, in this trial, you must decide what weight you will give this stipulation. And that's State's Exhibit 121, admitted without objection.
Thank you, Judge. And the state would first move to